Back in 2008, our Director of Curriculum and Instruction was Jennifer Wein. Jennifer had been in this role for some time, and she would lead our academic achievement and professional learning team until she retired in 2017. Thus, for my first 9 years working at the Worthington Education Center, we followed the structures and meeting processes that Jennifer had put in place. Sometimes I agreed with those, sometimes I didn't. When I became superintendent in 2015, we made Jennifer our chief academic officer. Guys, I was smart enough not to mess with Jennifer Wein. And thus, whether I agreed with everything or not, things were predictable, they were reliable, I knew what to expect. When Jennifer retired in 2017, we selected Angie Adrian to be our new Chief Academic Officer. Angie had been a really successful school principal, most recently at Worthington High School, but she was new to her position at the WEC, and so she committed to that first year to listen and learn, and she left most of what Jennifer had in place. And from my perspective, that was great. At the end of Angie's first year at the WEC, she came into my office one day and she said, "Hey, I want to make a few changes in how we meet as a WEC team and when we meet as a WEC team." And I thought, yeah, sure, make whatever changes you want to. But then she said something that, for whatever reason, it kind of rocked my world. See, under Jennifer, our AAPL team would meet on Fridays. We'd start the day with Friday morning stand-up meetings. We'd have full department meetings. Our instructional coaches would be at the WEC on Fridays. But Angie, after watching and learning for a year, she wanted to move the Friday meetings to Thursday. And Angie began to explain her rationale for the change. And for whatever reason, it's like my brain froze up a little bit. I felt like I was listening to Teacher on Charlie Brown. And I'm thinking, but it's a Friday meeting. Like, you can't have a Thursday meeting on a Friday because it's no longer a Friday meeting, it's a Thursday meeting. Luckily these things, they stayed in my head. I didn't say them out loud. I think I just kind of mumbled to Angie, yeah, sure, change whatever you want to. But guys, the whole last year, for whatever reason, I was confused. I'd show up to work on Thursday and I'd be like, why are all these people standing around? On Friday, I'd be like, I don't ever see the instructional coaches anymore. And then it would hit me, right, we moved our Friday meetings to Thursday to better support our schools on Friday. Angie made the right decision. But I was struggling with this small change, and I'm thinking to myself, dude, you're supposed to be the superintendent. You gotta get over this. Likewise, I've been at the WEC now for 11 years. I've developed a level of seniority at the Worthington Education Center. Obviously, old dudes like Keith Schlarb and Tim Gehring have been there longer than I have. But I've been at the WEC a long time. And I like to park my big Ford F-150 pickup truck in a spot far from the building. I do this for two reasons. One, I need the steps. Two, as a kid who grew up here in Worthington, if I'm being truthful, my big truck parking skills may leave a little to be desired. So every day I would park in the same undesirable parking spot to the north of Christy DeWeese's office. 2 summers ago, I pulled into the WEC one morning and there was an SUV in my parking spot. And I'm thinking to myself, we got to stop letting the public use the WEC. My spot was not reserved or anything. I mean, it didn't need to be. It wasn't a very good spot. So I went and I parked somewhere else that day. By the time I left that evening, the SUV was gone. The following day, I pulled into the WEC in that same SUV. Not cool. But I went and I parked somewhere else, and by the evening, it was gone. The following day, the same thing. The following day, the same thing. Now guys, rationally, this shouldn't have bothered me. There are plenty of good spots at the WEC. I didn't already have a good spot. But when it comes to change, sometimes we throw rational thought right out the window. I began to spend long periods of time in the afternoon, behind Christy Lee's desk, trying to figure out who was parking in the parking spot. do it? I was a little embarrassed, but I know Christy well, and she had better access to look out the window. Christy was like, I could just go out there and put a cone in your spot and reserve it for you. And I thought about this. That was a pretty good idea. I didn't want people to know I thought it was a good idea. I didn't want people to think I was totally neurotic. So I was like, no, just look out the window a little bit. Guys, weeks passed. For weeks, I had to park in different parking spots. On one of those weeks, I stood on this very stage, and I told you, we need to keep big things big, small things small. I still wear the bracelet as a reminder. Obviously, this was a small thing, but it was bugging me. Like, who stole my parking spot? Am I being trolled? Am I on camera? There's like 5 parking spots, but mine wasn't even a good spot. Obviously, the change was small, but I wasn't reacting well to it. By the way, about a month passed, and we determined that Brian Hunt, our new food science director, had stolen my parking spot. In Worthington, we have a group of central office administrators that we call our cabinet. It's made up of our directors at the Worthington Education Center, our treasurer, Jeff McEwen, our assistant treasurer, TJ Cusick. And we meet twice each month to review the progress on our goals, the direction of our school district, work to increase our internal communication. Those meetings are always in room 220 in the WAC, and since I've been in Worthington since 2008, those meetings, our room's always been set up as a square. There's no assigned seats for the meetings, but people usually sit like in their normal locations. Last spring, I walked into one of our cabinet meetings. I was a little bit late, and so everybody was already in the room, and they had their materials out, laptops were open, cell phones had been left outside the room. I mean, everybody was ready to meet. But the room wasn't set up as our normal square. It was like a U shape, and there was this random table up front that wasn't connected to any of the other tables. And it was empty. Apparently, I was supposed to sit at that table. And I'm thinking to myself, do I work with savages? The story I'm telling myself in my head is not a good one. I'm thinking, are these people so lazy they can't even move a few tables around? Do I have to do everything in this business to myself? Now, I work with incredibly dedicated people, so the story I'm telling myself is ridiculous. But come on now, like, why aren't the tables set up correctly? Guys, they looked at me. I looked at them, and they burst out laughing, knowing that this table setup would be more than I could bear. I totally tried to play it off. I was like, I couldn't have met like that. I'm totally good with change. Big things big, small things small. So guys, what I've learned over time is, whether it's moving our Friday meetings to Thursday, or where I park my truck, by the way, I went ahead and sold my truck since Brian stole the parking space. Or how our room is set up for cabinet. Maybe I don't respond as well to change as I like to believe I do. And I think it's possible that some of us in this auditorium today are wired a little more like I am than we all want to believe. Public education in Worthington Schools has changed greatly over the last 10 to 20 years. But part of our challenge is we're working in this 21st century school district with brains that have at least partially been designed to be living on the savannah. One part of our brain, the prefrontal cortex, is where we do all of our considered thinking, our rational thought, we plan, we rein in our emotions. It's evolved over time. But a large portion of our brain has not. For our brains, the key aim is survival. They've done a pretty good job of that, which is why we're all here today. But in order to help us survive, the brain wants to do 2 key things: avoid threats and seek out rewards. Of the 2, avoiding threats is the most important. We think back to living on the savannah. We could all go without food and shelter, even water for a little while. But if the predator gets us, it's game over. So in order to avoid threats, our brain wants predictability and certainty. If the brain has a level of predictability, the information it needs to have certainty, it actually feels good. It's better able to protect us, and it's like a reward goes off in our brain. At the same time, when there's a level of change, whether that be large organizational change in a place like Worthington Schools or small personal changes, it sends out a message to our brain that something's not right. A level of predictability and certainty is taken away with the change. Our brains don't like this. It actually sends blood flow away from our prefrontal cortex into the area of our brain that tells us to run and hide and fight. It takes a really strong will for us to push through the mental activity that's going on in our heads. Even a small routine change, like where I park my truck, sends messages to the brain that something's not right. Those messages can readily overpower our rational thought. And thus, any change amplifies stress and discomfort. And with that, we all tend to sometimes underestimate the challenge with implementing change. And yet, change happens all the time. It's been accurately said that the only constant in our lives is change. In Worthington Schools, we're getting ready to experience significant change. We're in the planning process to move our 6th grade from our elementaries to our middle schools. As you saw, we're in the redesign and building process to rebuild all of our middle schools and to reopen a Perry Middle School. We're currently working with our community to redesign our middle school and our high school feeder patterns. We're continuing to add modular classrooms to handle growth, which changes where students go to school and where teachers teach. We're constantly assessing how we look at, teach, and assess primary reading. We've recently changed our whole secondary math program. And we live in this rapidly changing community and culture. At the same time, our students are changing. It's clear that when our students come to school this year, they'll do so with poorer emotional health. Twinge tells us that because of new media, our students are more lonely, anxious, and depressed. They have fewer social skills and even altered sleep patterns. Our students who will come to school this week will be much less independent than students were in previous generations. And that's mostly because we as parents are far more protective in this generation than parents were in previous generations. So I recently heard that there were 2 truths. No one likes change, and no one likes when nothing changes. And so if we know that change will happen, but we understand that as humans we're wired to resist that change, how should we respond? That's the question that I want us all to wrestle with as we begin a school year. Change will and should happen. We're wired as humans to resist that change. But how we do anything means everything. Guys, one option for us is that we can resist the change, but ultimately allow it to happen. When we take this path, it puts us in what we call survival mode. We'll likely live through the change, but we'll be constantly bemoaning the change. We'll remember the past with fondness, but likely not accuracy. And this tension will always be bubbling right below the surface. If we're not careful, we can spend our lives never rising out of survival mode, showing up for work every day faithfully, but always thinking about how much better the past was. A better option for us is to understand that our expectations will shape our reality. If we're intentional in the change process, we can move from survival to belonging. How we respond to change matters. If you're focusing on the positive aspects of any change, through dedication, hard work, and caring for one another, we can move from survival to belonging. When we reach belonging, our energies and our talents can come together to fulfill our greater purpose in serving others. How we do anything means everything. How we react to change, big or small, will determine the life we live. Collectively, when we understand that we're wired to resist, but instead commit to focusing on the positive aspects of a change, we can come together to create the future that we seek, both for one another as professionals and the community we serve. In Worthington, our mission is to empower a community of learners who will change the world. In our constantly changing environment, how we do anything will mean everything. This year we're focusing on the how. How we care for our kids. How we connect with our community. How we together tackle the inevitable changes that must occur to create our shared positive future. How we do anything means everything. But together, we will grow and excel. Go be awesome this year.